Yo, yo, YouTube, what up? We're back. UFC 309, Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. I can't wait to talk about this card. This is a long-awaited matchup right here for the heavyweight championship of the world. But let's do a little recap of last week just for a few seconds here. It was a UFC Vegas 100 card. It was the 100th card in the Apex. We won 8 out of 11, 72.7% win rate. And over the last 4 events, we've hit 36 out of 48 picks, 75% win rate through the last 4 events. I would say that's a hot streak right now. We've had some underdogs in there, win or lose. But here we go, UFC 309. Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. And in this one, I got to be rocking with Jon Jones, the GOAT. I feel like this could be a war. Stipe hasn't fought in a long time, though. I feel like if it gets bad, he might look for an easy way out. Jon Jones had a really quick fight with Cyril Gane in his last fight, which was almost 2 years ago. But it wasn't a lot to judge off in that fight. Cyril Gane was very flat that night. Jon Jones threw just a couple punches, enough to go in for a takedown. Worked the submission. Cyril Gane defended the first one. Jon Jones wound up getting the submission in the first round. And for Stipe Miocic, he hasn't fought in almost 4 years. Lost to Ngannou, flatline knockout, super ugly. Before that, beat DC a couple times. I think it's just age here. Jon Jones has never lost. He has the winning mentality. Even when he took the layoff, he still came back and dominated against Cyril, who was a great matchup, opponent for anybody. But for Stipe, coming off the knockout loss, taking the 3 or 4 years off, I don't see it helping him out here at all. He's not active, and I think he's going to look for a way out come the second or third round of this fight. I think Jon Jones is going to win by knockout. It's probably standing knockout. I really think Stipe is going to give up. He has a lot of dog in him, but that was so many years ago. We don't know how much he's got left. He's probably got a baseline or a base pay contract for this one, unless he gets a bonus. But I don't see him having the dog in him anymore. He's over 40. Let's go Jon Jones, minus 700 favorite or something. And for the next fight, we have Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler, number 2. This is a rematch. Great first fight they had. Michael Chandler dominated the first round. So in the first fight, Charles Oliveira got Michael Chandler's back. He had him in a submission. Chandler fought it off well. They scrambled, sprawled. Chandler winded up on top, landing heavy ground and pound. They went back to the feet. Chandler was looking good there, piecing him up. Second round started, and Charles Oliveira was a new man after he got dominated in the first round. As soon as the second round started, Charles Oliveira landed a couple strikes, literally a couple strikes, and Chandler was out. He hit him with, I think it was a straight right and then a couple left hooks, and Chandler was out. Great stoppage by the ref. Charles Oliveira showed tremendous adversity in that fight, and he's really been through his career. He did just lose to Arman Tsarukyan, but it was a very close fight. Michael Chandler hasn't fought in a couple years. He's been waiting for Conor McGregor. I don't like him here. I like Charles Oliveira here with the average confidence to win the rematch. I usually like the guy who wins the first fight to always win the rematch. And I think Charles has more ways to win. He has 3 ways to win: decision, knockout, or submission. And Michael Chandler only has 1 way to win, I believe. It's by knockout. That's because he's going to be looking for the knockout this whole fight. I really like Charles Oliveira here to win by submission. I think he chokes out Chandler in like the second or third round. But Chandler's going to gas this a 5-round fight. Chandler does not stand a chance, dude. He gasses in all of his fights. Chandler is a great fighter. All respect to him. Nothing against his great career he's had, even through some of the losses. But I like Charles Oliveira here to win the rematch, about 270 favorite. In this next fight, we have Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. And in this one, you got to take Bo Nickal. He's the biggest favorite on the card, like he always is. He's about minus 1,000 favorite. and he's a wrestling ace. We all know his credentials in wrestling. And for Paul Craig, I think he's about 1-4 in his last 5 fights. He's fought really tough guys through then. But I don't believe Bo Nickal has the jiu-jitsu threat that Paul Craig has faced his last few fights. Paul Craig has faced very high jiu-jitsu players in his last few matchups. And they were the reason why Paul Craig got submitted. Paul Craig did beat Andre Muniz, who was a BJJ black belt. 3rd round knockout. Lost to Brendan Allen. And then lost his last fight. I forget who that was to. But for Bo Nickal, this is a big step up in competition. I think the only threat here for him is to be careful that he doesn't get submitted. I don't think he will submit Paul Craig. I feel like he will knock Paul Craig out on the feet or ground and pound. And I like Bo Nickal here a lot. I mean, everyone does. This is not a bold pick. In this next fight, we have Mauricio Ruffy versus Hafez Llontop. And in this one, I got to rock with Mauricio Ruffy here. He's about a minus 1,000 favorite against Hafez Llontop, who hasn't won a UFC fight yet. Hafez Llontop came off a really close fight with Varshev Borsov. And that was a split decision fight. I thought Hafez did enough to win the fight in damage. Borshev was actually grappling a little bit in that fight. Hafez Llontop has dog in him. He's really tough. But Mauricio Ruffy, on the other hand, is looking super dominant in his couple UFC fights. I think he has 1 Contender Series fight and 1 UFC debut against Jamie Mullarkey. He knocked him out very quick, but his striking is very crisp. In the Contender Series, he had good grappling. He's Brazilian, so he's got the good jiu-jitsu. And in this one, I gotta rock with Mauricio Ruffy here. I mean, he's a 10-1 favorite. I don't want to spend too much time on this one because not even a lot of people who are watching this video know who these fighters are. These are very new fighters to the roster. But I like Mauricio Ruffy here a fair amount. In this next fight, this is a fight that a lot more people on the channel will know more about, is Jonathon Martinez versus Marcus McGhee. And in this one, I gotta rock with Marcus McGhee here. He's coming out of the MMA lab with training partners of Sean O'Malley and Mario Bautista, coach Tim Welch. Don't know if he'll be in the corner. I would think so. And for Jonathon Martinez, he's coming off his first loss in quite some years to Jose Aldo. Marcus McGhee, on the other hand, is coming off a few wins. Not many are in the UFC. I think 2 wins in the UFC, and one of them's over JP Buys. Can't get that with much. But his last win was over the guy who just fought this past weekend. What was his name? It was a good win. I watched the fight. I'm having a little blur here. Bear with me. Marcus McGhee's last win was over Gaston Bolanos, who looked really good this past weekend. Gaston Bolanos just beat up a really good prospect in Cortavius Romeos, and Marcus McGhee made easy work of him, knocked him out in the second round. Jonathon Martinez, last fight, got humbled by Jose Aldo, and through this run, Jonathon Martinez has been really making a run just through leg kicks, really. His leg kicks are so nasty. He's winning so many fights by it. I really don't believe his kickboxing is all that. His straight punches are good, but he doesn't have really great combos. He throws a couple up top and always lands with the leg kick. I really like Marcus McGhee here. I believe he has more dog in him, and I think he'll have a better strategy to win this fight. I think he'll go the Jose Aldo approach and eat a few leg kicks, but every time you're going to throw a leg kick, you're going to catch one in return. I like Marcus McGhee here a lot. The great coach, super smart. And Tim Welch, great mind. I love Tim Welch as a coach. But I like Marcus McGhee here at minus 140. In this next fight, we have Chris Weidman versus Eryk Anders. And in this one, I'm going with Eryk Anders here. Small favorite, minus 140. There's not a lot of underdogs on this card. Unfortunately, the UFC is not really an underdog sport. If you pay attention to that at all, last weekend, only one underdog won in the UFC Apex 100 card. That was Gaston Bolanos. He beat Cortavius Romeos. But not a lot of favorites win in the UFC. There's usually just like 2 or 3 on the night that win. I like Eryk Anders here, the younger fighter. I don't want to say more active. He only has like 2 fights in the last 2 years against Kyle Dawkins and Jamie Pickett. And for Chris Weidman, he's coming off a robbery win, actually. He was in a really close fight with Bruno Silva in his last fight. Did the eye poke thing. Bruno Silva couldn't continue. The ref stopped it, and they went to a 3rd round technical decision, but that was a really weird fight. Before that, Chris Weidman lost. And before that, he hasn't won a fight since 2020. I don't like Chris Weidman here. I think he got really lucky in his last fight to get the win against Bruno Silva. This is a clash of styles. Both these guys are grapplers. None of them are great at everything, but decent at everything. I don't want to even say good at everything. Neither of them are great strikers. Weidman used to be a great wrestler. I don't think he has it anymore. Eryk Anders is a decent wrestler. I have to favor the younger guy in a matchup like this where both their styles are so similar. I like Eryk Anders here as a small favorite to get the job done, probably with a little more control time, I think. In this next fight, we have Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson. This is one of the better fights on the whole card. Damon Jackson's coming up to 155 for this fight. He lost his last fight against Stipe Miocic, and Jim Miller lost his last fight against Bobby Green. Both the guys coming off a loss, similar age, both in the upper 30s. Also another clash of styles here. Both these guys usually win their fights off grappling and heavy top pressure or submissions. I think that's going to cancel out in this fight, rather. I like Damon Jackson here. I know he has the better striking. Jim Miller has really wild hooks, but he has no kicks, no elbows, no knees. And for Damon Jackson, he has better combinations. He'll use the knees, elbows, and legs. He'll use all 8 limbs. I like Damon Jackson here a lot. Minus 150. Better striker. The grappling should cancel it out through the whole fight. There's no way Damon Jackson gets put on his back and stuck there by Jim Miller. All respect to Jim Miller. Was such a Jim Miller fan. Usually have him in most fights. Usually get a very good line on Jim Miller. We did not have Jim Miller, though, against Bobby Green. We had Bobby Green in that fight. That was an easy pick. Before that, we were riding with Jim Miller. He was beating short notice guys and just not top 15 UFC guys. I believe Damon Jackson is the top 15 UFC featherweight. I mean, he's coming up to lightweight for this one. I don't know if he's top 15 there, but I like Damon Jackson a lot in this fight. Minus 150. High confidence. Lock of the night. Get a little intermission here. Wet the whistle. This next fight is David Onama versus question mark. It was supposed to be Lucas Almeida. That got canceled. Then it was supposed to be Lucas Alexander. That got canceled. David Onama can't catch a break. They will find someone for him before fight night. Probably in the next coming hours or day or two. David Onama is going to be a huge favorite against a short notice fighter. I don't just want to say it's an automatic win, but if David Onama doesn't get someone that's on the UFC roster, if he gets a newcomer or something, he's probably going to make easy work of them. He's going to be a 10-1 favorite. Probably take David Onama. But on to the next fight, we have Marcin Tybura versus Jhonata Diniz. And in this one, I'm rocking with Jhonata Diniz. He was just supposed to fight 2 weeks ago against Derek Lewis. Something happened there. The fight didn't happen. Jonathan is the younger fighter. He's 8-0. He's looked very good in the UFC. Just through a couple fights. He's gotten taken down for a whole round by Austin Lane. Popped back up, knocked him out in the second round. He has heavy power, great striking, impressive kickboxing career in Glory Kickboxing. And for Marcin Tybura, UFC vet, he only loses to really good guys. Tom Aspinall, Alex Volkov. He's beat up a few guys over the way, but I don't think he has it in him anymore to beat these new up-and-comers, undefeated guy. I really like Jonathon Diniz here. His kickboxing is super crisp. He has to be really wary of the takedown defense. Hopefully over time he's worked on that. If he does get taken down in the first round, I don't think Tybura will submit him. I don't believe Tybura is going to be in the best shape either. He is kind of taking this one on short notice. He did not in an 8-week camp for this because Jonathon Diniz was just prepared to fight Derek Lewis. But I like Jonathon Diniz here to beat the gatekeeper, Marcin Tybura, underdog. Underdog, yeah, minus 105. Tybura's minus 125. Weird line. In this next fight, we have Gall versus Ramiz Brahimaj. And this one, I'm taking Ramiz Brahimaj. High confidence, a lot of confidence. Gall is 7-6. This guy should have been out of the promotion so long ago. He just had a fight with Bassil Hafez where he lost the whole fight. It was close for like a few minutes, but Bassil did his thing, beat up Gall like everybody does. I'm never betting on somebody who's 7-6. Not talking about this fight too long. I like Ramiz Brahimaj here. Probably by decision. Gall is kind of tough. His jiu-jitsu is good. Brahimaj is a submission ace. Probably his way to win. But I think it's a 30-27 Ramiz Brahimaj. This next fight, we have Bassil Hafez versus Oban Elliot. And in this one, I'm rocking with Oban Elliot here to get the job done. Like I just said about Bassil Hafez, he did have a close fight with Gall for a couple minutes. One of the judges scored a 29-28, so apparently one of those judges thought Gall won a round in that fight. The other two judges had it for 30-27 Bassil Hafez. Bassil Hafez had a very impressive UFC debut against Jack Della Maddalena, split decision fight. We all know where Jack's at in his career. Bassil did his thing in that fight. He had the grappling going, but honestly, I hate to talk about it like this. Bassil Hafez, these guys who take the UFC debuts on a week or two notice are not tested by, it used to be USADA. I don't know who it is now that does the testing, but whatever drug agency pool it is, they don't pull drug tests off these guys for the past 6 months. I believe Bassil Hafez was somewhat off the juice when he fought Jack Della Maddalena, because that was a very close fight against a top 5 welterweight in the world. And then Bassil Hafez had a very close fight with Gall, who was not even near ranked. That was because he was in the right testing pool. Once you're in that UFC testing pool for about 6 months, you can't get away with none of it. I don't know how you go to a close fight with Jack Della Maddalena and then a close fight with Gall. The competition level falls off a steep cliff there. Bassil Hafez is overrated. He had his good debut against Jack Della Maddalena when he was off the juice. I like Oban Elliot here a lot. Way better striker, good grappling. Just beat up on Preston Parsons, who is a similar style to Bassil Hafez. And I believe Preston Parsons is even better than Bassil Hafez. I like Oban Elliot here a ton. And for this next fight, the curtain jerker of the night, the women's fight of the night, well, one of them, Veronica Hardy versus Eduarda Moura. And in this one, I really like Veronica Hardy here to get the job done. She's 3-0 since she got married to Dan Hardy, ex-fighter, veteran. And he's a really good mind for coaching since Veronica Hardy's fought those 3 fights since they've been married. She's been winning clean decisions. He has good game plans for her. She's overall really good at striking and grappling. She doesn't really have any deficiencies. If anything, I would say it's when she does land on the bottom, which in her last fight she did for a couple minutes. But ultimately, she's the way better striker. Eduarda Moura has a little bit of finishing ability, but I don't believe after the first round she's a real threat. I like Veronica Hardy here a lot, minus 160. And there was actually a fight, I skipped on this by accident. It was the Viviane Araujo versus Karine Silva. And in this one, I gotta rock with Karine Silva. She's really clean. She's on a run. Viviane Araujo is not on a run. She's very inconsistent. A couple of recent losses, and one of them was to Amanda Ribas, which I believe has a similar style here to Karine Silva. Swift, fast, in and out striker. I like Karine Silva a lot here to get the job done. This is another fight I don't want to talk too much about. I really like Karine Silva here. Lock confidence. She's one of the locks on the night, probably on the whole card. And that's going to conclude your UFC 309 predictions. Drop a comment, share with a friend, tell the picks, place your own parlays, however you want. Like I said, you can drop a comment. I'll help you out if you want to know a way to put together some method parlays or just some straight lines. Some of these lines are kind of juiced on this card. It's really hard. It's going to be really hard to make money unless you pick method of victories on this. And that's not always the easiest as well. But I'm really excited to watch the card overall. I want to see Jon Jones back in there. The Charles Oliveira fight really interests me. There's not too many great names on this card. It's really built around them. A couple fights fell out of this card. But if you're a UFC fan, look into Mauricio Ruffy. Obviously, Bo Nickal. The Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson fight is going to be a thriller. Other than that, the fights aren't too great on the card. I see a lot of decisions, honestly. I don't see too many finishes. But I'm rooting for Jon Jones big time here. I'm rooting for... I don't really like Charles Oliveira, but I think I'm going to take him in a couple parlays, rather. I'm rooting for Bo Nickal. I can't bet on him minus 1,000. It'd be funny to see Paul Craig win. Mauricio Ruffy is another one. Really hard to get a read on. Contender Series fight, a UFC fight. Marcus McGhee fight should be good with Martinez. I feel like it could be a little bit boring, but overall, I'm still excited for UFC 309 just because of Jon Jones. That's enough to weigh this out for me. Hopefully it's another week here where we keep the ball rolling, hitting over 75% the last 4 events. You gotta tail the picks. They're there. You gotta have the cash to lay it down. Good luck, y'all. Until next time.